I want to welcome you all to the Mental Edge Resilience. I'm really thrilled. We have such a great turnout today. So thank you all very, very much. I hope that somebody out there is getting to pour themselves a glass of wine or a good stiff vodka or something fun, because I'm still in my office. But if I would feel remiss if I didn't start by thanking Lucy Lipovsky, because Lucy has done such a great job. Yeah, we should give her just a huge round of applause. All these events have really come because of her pushing us forward into uncharted waters. So thank you, Lucy. This has been a really interesting time and we're making the best of it. So I appreciate that. I also want to take a minute while we have this audience and go through a couple upcoming events. So August 19th, we have How Will the Virus Experience Transform Colleges and Students' Learning? And August 26th, we have a new member meet and greet. And then September 14th, Women in Elections 2020 should be really interesting. And September 22nd, we have the impact of COVID-19 on our lives and on our communities. October 27th is going to be fantastic. It's our annual celebration. Usually we get together and have a lovely dinner. And this is going to be a really special night. Mary and her team have put a huge amount of effort. There's actually going to be gifts for everyone. It's going to be great. So please sign up and attend. And it was really cute. Is Gail on? Gail Markham? I know Gail was going to join us, but anyway, she's
not able to join.
Oh, too bad, because she had said, this is so great that we can actually go to these things without driving so far. So I'm just glad that we can all get together in some way. So now, without further ado, I have the distinct and really humbling opportunity to introduce to you my longtime friend, a woman who has truly inspired me for a very long time. Kathy Feinstein is really an amazing role model for women. She has a very successful counseling practice with a strong concentration on sport performance. She works with her clients to achieve greater satisfaction in sport, health, and life. And the greatest trait is she truly listens from her heart. She's the best listener I know, and probably one of the things that makes her extremely successful. She's currently working on her PhD as she manages a full practice of clients. She's got a wonderful podcast series and really makes a meaningful contribution in this community that we live in. She was recognized as a woman of distinction by the Community Foundation. She's chaired many organizations in our town, and she's taught me so much about visualization. And it started a long, long time ago. I was playing a good bit of tennis and I was never really getting any better. And so she came out to the tennis courts and really started talking to me about what was going on in my brain as I was playing and the conversation. And I'm sure every one of you know you have those conversations going on all the time, and sometimes you have to just like shut that voice up. And then she taught me a process of visualizing so I could prepare for certain shots. And she really made such a huge difference. And that was many years ago. And here we are many years later. And I think we've all been in some state of heightened anxiety since March began. And I don't know if it's fear-based or this constant change that we're living in and never having a consistent life right now. But it's created challenges for many. And what a better way, I thought, to spend an hour and really focus on resilience and learning more about resilience and that capacity to recover quickly and be flexible. So I'm confident each of you are going to walk away with some important tools, and I'm really excited to present my dear friend, Kathy Feinstein.
Oh, thank you, Adria. It's a wonderful, warm welcome and introduction. I'm going to go ahead and take a second here so that I can share my screen. And that everybody can see my PowerPoint. Okay.
While you're just setting this up, this is Beth Gandhoff. I just sent everyone a chat. I got so excited by that intro, and I was wondering, does that mean I'll be a better tennis player at the end of this call?
if you use it in the right way.
Actually, yeah, we could have fun talking about that. All right, let's see. Oh, where did my thing go? Where did my, hold on, ladies. Let me find it. Okay. If I can bring that over here. There we go. Okay. All right. Start from the beginning. Okay, so again, thank you, Adria, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here. I think it's so awesome that you all are doing these Zoom meetings, because I think right now it's such an important time to support each other, and it's so easy to get isolated. So I think that it's great to be connected. Everybody's like quarantining on some different level, and I know I've been home for 22 weeks. And seeing clients on via teleconferencing, and really miss being in the office. So I can't wait to get back to things as normal as usual, but just thrilled to have this opportunity, you know, to be able to meet people on Zoom, because I'm not sure what that would be like otherwise. So, so tonight we are going to be talking about cultivating resilience through visualization. And it's something that I have a lot of passion around and a lot of energy around, and have had some experience with myself, and the research is compelling to back it up. And so I'm really excited to share all of that with you. But first, I wanted to give you a little background to put my talk into context, because as Adria mentioned, you know, I've been a counselor for a long time. I've been in practice for about over 20 years. And about 13 years ago, both of my daughters were at the height of their athletic careers, and both were experiencing performance anxiety. So like any good sport parent, I went out to find somebody to help them. And in my research of looking for someone to help them, I found an international organization that was certifying mental health professionals in sports psychology. And I thought, well, shoot, if my kids need this, then this could be something that could be beneficial for a lot of people. So I went and I entered the program, and about 5 years later, became certified and started and added the sports psychology piece to my counseling. What was really interesting to me and surprising was when I added the sports psychology, I knew that my counseling background was going to really influence the work I did with athletes. But I had no idea how much the sport psychology training and mental skills for athletes was going to impact my work with my general counseling clients. And
Beth, let me just interrupt a second. Could everyone mute their audio, so we can, there's some static in there that's overpowering Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Lucy. Okay. So that's what brings me here tonight. So being able to take the sports psychology, mental skills off the field and into our daily living. So visualization is one of those most powerful skills, and successful athletes use it to maximize their potential all the time. And it's used in a variety of ways. One is peak performance, and that's how we're gonna kind of treat it tonight, like a peak performance of resilience. But it's also used for skill development. It's used for injury recovery, motivation, confidence building, and of course, resilience. So I want to see if you guys remember this. Anybody remember this from back in the 70s with the wide world of sports? Jim McKay, like every week he would talk about the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And when I think about athletes and resilience, this scene always comes up for me. I remember week after week just cringing when he would crash. A little bit of an aside, he really only broke his ankle, but he was very resilient in that he went back and continued to try to make this Olympic team. His name was Bogataj, a Yugoslavian skier. So he never made an Olympic team, but he did adapt. And he was also a very skilled artist. And so he went to Slovenia and he began painting and had another career as an artist. So You don't have to be an extreme athlete to exercise extreme resilience, though. And so actually, Adrian mentioned it before everybody got on, but I think I wanted to also really encourage everyone that you have access to this amazing conversation with Dr. Lucy Hone on resilience. And she gives like an overall view of resilience in daily living from IWF in New Zealand. And she was awesome. And so I would really encourage you to check out that presentation. And she also has a very popular TED Talk. So another great resource. So my talk tonight, though, is going to be very specific, and it's going to be very specific to how we can use visualization and imagery in order to support and cultivate our resilience. So I'm going to start by defining it, and then I'm going to talk about how it works, the science behind it, because the science is just amazing and very compelling. And then we're going to really talk about like what we're doing when we're being resilient. And then that will set up a visualization for each of you, because it will be unique to each of you, that you will walk away with your own script or your own idea of what that looks like so that you can begin using it for your own resilience. Okay, so how do we define it? Resilience is the capacity to recover from adversity and the capacity to adapt. And I love this quote by Pema Chodron, who is a wonderful and wise Buddhist nun. And she said, "You are the sky and everything else is the weather." And I love that, because the weather is adversity and the sky is our ability to adapt, right? That we can be strong like the sky, even through any type of weather. And you all are resilient. And I know that because, first of all, you're here. And I also know that because adversity does not discriminate. Everybody here has experienced probably a multitude of adversity in a lifetime. You know, the loss of a loved one, caring for someone sick in your family, or, managing your own illness. There's addiction, there's all kinds of adversity. And then there's the everyday kind of adversity, right? When we just fail at something, we make a mistake at something, or even some people in, mid-season would say that Naples seasonal traffic is an adversity. So we have all kinds of different adversities that we're facing all the time. So we really want to be able to, we know we're going to experience it. We just want to be able to bounce back from it quickly. Okay, so visualization and imagery, I use those words interchangeably, but visualization is the process of creating a mental image of what you want to happen or feel in reality. And there is a very strong scientific basis for how this works and why this works. One of the early studies was they put people in functional MRI machines, where you can move in the MRI machine, and they connected them to measure their brain activity. And they had everybody like raise their right arm and lower their right arm. And then they had them close their eyes and imagine that movement. And what was astounding was that the same area of the brain lit up in both conditions, whether they were actually performing the movement or if they were imagining that movement. So essentially, our brain does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And there is a lot of power in that. So to really bring that home, I thought instead of talking more about it, that maybe we would just have a minute here where we could experience something like that. So if everyone would be willing to kind of just take, get comfortable and close your eyes or cast your eyes down and take a couple of deep breaths. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a visualization that will demonstrate that. So really just take a nice deep breath and relax and kind of prepare for this image. And what I want you to do is imagine yourself standing in your kitchen. And I want you to make this image as vivid as you can. Make it as if you were really there right now. Maybe hearing the whir of your refrigerator or the clock, your kitchen clock ticking. And then really take in the view of the whole room. Like, what do you see in the room? And now imagine that you have a beautiful ripe lemon sitting on a cutting board right in front of you. And you notice the bright yellow color. And then you pick up the lemon and see yourself like feeling that bumpy, waxy texture of the skin. And then give it like a little squeeze to feel that it's perfectly ripe. And now imagine putting the lemon back down on the cutting board and seeing yourself pick up a knife where you cut that lemon in half. And as you cut the lemon, notice the beads of juice that are rolling down on the side of the cutting board. And notice how you immediately smell the strong citrusy lemon scent. And now with the knife, you cut that lemon wedge, that lemon in half into a wedge, and pick up this juicy wedge of lemon and imagine sinking your teeth right into the pulp of that lemon. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So, if you're like most people, you had a physical response to that visualization. Did anybody have like a physical response to it? Did you get that puckering feeling, start to get salivation? Exactly. So that is a demonstration of how your brain does not really know the difference between what's real and imagined. It didn't know that that lemon was not in front of you. And so that is, that makes it very powerful. So let's go back to how it works. So visualization also works like a missile guider, okay? And so when you have a vision that you put in your mind, your brain is equipped to help you to make that vision a reality, okay? Just like a guided missile. And that's why it's really important to keep your images about what you want and not what you don't want. Because as your brain does not know the difference between what's real and imagined, this part of the brain does not know what's good, bad, right, or wrong. It only wants to make your visions a reality, okay? Always use the example of a public speaker. So a public speaker that, spends some time visualizing a really successful event will walk in and all of a sudden be paying attention to all the things that are gonna make that speech a success. He or she will be paying attention to the people that are paying attention, that are making eye contact, that are engaged. Whereas another speaker who's fearful and not mentally prepared might walk in and have in the audience be paying attention to the people that are looking at their watch or the people that are getting up to go to the bathroom or yawning. All of those things are happening in that audience. But depending on what that vision is that speaker has is what is going to be filtered for that speaker to pay attention to. So it's really important that we keep our images very positive at what we want. Another remarkable part of visualization is that when you're visualizing, you're actually making neural connections. Again, because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, you begin to make those neural connections. So your brain thinks that you've done it, even if you haven't done something, if you're doing a skill development. An example of that is Aaron Rodgers, who's a championship quarterback. And every night before a game, he talks about visualizing every possibility of what could happen when he gets that ball from the center. And so when he's out there, there's no surprises because he's anticipated every possibility in that play of what could happen. So we're making neural connections. Yes. Now, there was an early study that was done by an Australian psychologist. And what he did is he divided basketball players into 3 groups. And he had the first group do a physical practice of free throws. He was helping these athletes to improve their free throw percentages. So he had them, the physical practice group, and they practiced, I think, 20 minutes a day for 30 days. The second group did a mental practice. They never touched a ball. And they did the mental practice. They visualized the practice. And then the third group, there was no intervention. They were the control group. So what happened was that the group that visualized the practice improved their free throw percentage almost as much as the group that actually did the physical practice, which was pretty remarkable. So That was a study that was done a fairly long time ago, but there was a really a new study that was done at Cleveland Clinic. And this was really interesting where they had—
Suzanne.
where they had,
How are you? I was gonna say, how are you? I know you're probably going crazy a mile a minute there.
Christina, we could hear you. Sorry.
I know there's quite a number of things. I'm like, how does she know that she's reading?
Okay, so the Cleveland Clinic study, they had participants and they divided them also into a visualizing group and physical practice group. And what they did is they measured finger strength. It's kind of a funky thing, but they had them, it was an abductor finger exercise, right? Where they had them develop this finger strength. And they worked at it, I think a couple of times a day for several days. And what ended up happening, the results were kind of consistent with the old study in basketball, where the folks that were actually doing the mental practice of strengthening their finger with this abductor exercise improved their strength by 35%, never having done the exercise. Whereas the group that did the physical practice improved by 53%. They also did like an elbow flexion, and that those results were a little bit weaker, where they improved the strength by 13%. But it was great because it was very consistent. And the other remarkable part of that is, as a result of the visualization, they activated the chemical response in their body that builds muscle fiber. So there was a physiological response to it. Okay, so am I convincing you guys that this is a great thing to do? I hope so. Okay, well, this will put the bow on it for you. This is not evidence-based, but this is okay. This is an evidence-based. This is meet Colonel George Hall, and he was a POW at the infamous Hanoi Hilton for 7 years. He was held prisoner in a cell that was about a little bigger than him. It was 7 by 7. He was there for 7 years, and he actually was on the golf team at the Naval Academy before he was, before he was a pilot. And so he was a scratch golfer. And so what he did is he used golf as a way of being resilient and coping with horrendous conditions that he was kept in. So every day he would play a round of golf, and he knew different courses, and he would visualize everything from getting up in the morning to putting on his clothes, putting on his shoes, getting to the golf course. He knew the different courses, and he would visualize himself playing 18 holes. He would hear the sound of the ball when he would hit into the cup. He would visualize the feeling of the wind that was blowing, in his face as he was walking on the course. And he would, see himself performing like a scratch golfer, and it really got him through. So when he was released, he was 100 pounds underweight. He had lost 100 pounds from when he was captured. And all he wanted to do was, not all he wanted to do, but one of the things he wanted to do was to play a legitimate round of golf. And so 6 weeks after his release, he was invited to play at a POW Veterans Open tournament in New Orleans, and he shot a 76. And for those of you that are golfers or know about golf, that's an amazing score. Somebody that has been, in trauma for 7 years. And, it was just incredible. So when the reporter interviewed him at the end of the round, he said, "Hey, Colonel, that's some good beginner luck." And he said, "No, I haven't 3-putted in 5 years." So not only did the visualization help him to be resilient and survive in those circumstances, but it also kept his golf game really sharp. So I love that story. So we can maintain our high level of resilience, and we can visualize ourselves in this process. And I think that, the thing to keep in mind is that we want our visualizations also to be very vivid. And I think his story really demonstrates that, what he was hearing, what he was seeing, what he was feeling. So we want them to be very vivid. And the research shows that the more vivid the visualization is, the more effective it is. I think his story also illustrates something else, and that is that people will visualize either kinesthetically, kind of from behind the eyes, or like what you did in the lemon exercise where I coached you to see yourself with that lemon. So there's two ways. And the research is a little bit mixed, but it leans more towards the more effective method of visualization is kinesthetically, through behind your eye. So it's a skill that we're not born visualizers, right? So we have to practice it. And so you can really practice in both ways. You can practice from behind your eyes, or you can practice, from a third person. So the long and short of it is imagery and visualization works as a missile guider, guiding us to help us reach our goals and helping us to create what we want to have happen in our lives. Then it can improve performance through skill development, building confidence, motivation. It can even help with regulating emotions. I mean, it's really, the possibilities are endless. But tonight, again, we're going to talk about how we use it to cultivate resilience. So we're going to really talk about how we do this by thinking in terms of what you have done in the past to be resilient, right? So we want this to be a peak performance. And so thinking of ourselves as when we've been the most resilient, like what did you do? What got you there, right? Or if there was something that you've learned since then, or something that you want to do in the future, we can also include that in the visualization, because again, it works as a missile guider. It's going to take you there so that you will, be paying attention to the things that will help you to achieve that vision of resilience. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to take you through a series of questions for your consideration in how to develop an image of your most resilient self. Okay, so I'm going to take you through all these questions, and then it might be useful to jot down the responses, because it's going to be the building blocks for you for the second time that we go through it is going to be the actual time when you're going to be visualizing. But I didn't want to take you through it without having some kind of preparation. So as I ask you these questions, just be jotting down your responses, and then we'll put it together in the visualization in the next go round. So it was interesting in asking different women what they saw when they thought of themselves as resilient, and I got a whole host of different answers. And it was interesting, starting with my own, kind of when I see myself as being resilient, it's kind of a quiet resilience. Sitting someplace peaceful, with like a feeling of relief and a feeling of strength. And that's kind of what my visualization was. It was like in a field of wildflowers and just feeling really strong and quiet and relieved. And the young women that I interviewed and asked them, their resilient image was related to their clothes, which I thought was really interesting. They saw themselves like in suits or a red dress, but they really associated their resilience with what they were wearing. And then I've had responses in fatigues, putting one foot in front of the other, in camo, really fighting through, or as a superhero, in a victory stance with the wave, with the cape waving. So a whole host. So I hope that you will let your imagination just kind of run wild and what it looks like to you. Okay. All right, so let's start. The first question that I'm going to ask you is what resilience means to you. And when you think of a most extraordinarily resilient person, a woman, what are the words that come to mind to describe her? Because that woman is you. So really be thinking about what words that you use to describe an extraordinarily resilient woman. Is it courage, flexibility, acceptance, problem solving? And the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to call to mind a time when you were resilient. What helped you get through, and what helped you overcome that adversity? Was it the way you looked at it? Was it your mindset? Was it a spiritual practice? Was it your self-care? What really got you through? want you to think about a current obstacle, something that you're facing right now. If it's work related, managing fear related to this pandemic, related to your health or your loved one's health, or any other obstacle that you may be facing. Just think about that, what you're facing now. And then the next one is to think about what you have done. We were talking about before, what you've done to get through and what you want to do to get through this time. So if it is a matter of something that you know that works and you want to visualize yourself, in that process, or if it's something that you haven't really considered that would support your resiliency. One of the things that research shows helps people with resilience is self-compassion. Kelly McGonigal at Stanford University has done a ton of research on self-compassion. And what the research tells us is when we are kind to ourselves, that we are more resilient. Unfortunately, a lot of times that's when we're most hard on ourselves. So so maybe practicing some self-compassion. Another process or strategy that's tied very strongly to resilience is meditation. Meditation and mindfulness. Mindfulness, when we're mindful, we're in the moment. And so where everything is okay, so we can be, help us, keep us from catastrophizing things or getting too far in the future. So practicing mindfulness is a great way to be resilient. Something else that's tied very strongly to resilience is connection. And I love this quote by Helen Keller that I would rather walk, I can't read it all the way, with a friend in the dark than in the light, than alone in the light. And I think that really speaks to the importance of connection. So in your visualization, maybe you're going to be seeing yourself, reaching out to loved ones, to friends, or being mindful or having some compassion for yourself. And then finally, something else that's tied very strongly to resilience is gratitude. So in this process, you might be seeing yourself with a gratitude practice, what that might look like. And it might be, even visualizing yourself sitting down in a quiet space and thinking about things that you might be grateful for, connecting with that and recording that in a journal, but developing a practice around gratitude to help with your resilience. And now this is going to be the fun part. Then when you get through to the other side and feeling the resilience that you have overcome this adversity or you have made it to the other side, what does that look like for you? Does it look like this person, with that victory stance, or are you in fatigues, or are you in a quiet place, just feeling relief and strength in that you've come through? What does it look like for you? And really thinking about that. And when you're thinking about that, really putting in a lot of detail. What are you wearing? What do you see around you? What do you hear? What do you smell? Really making that vision very, very vivid would be most effective. And finally, the last thing that I'm going to ask you to consider is when you find yourself in this place, what kind of feelings emerge? What are you feeling? I know for me, I said relief, but maybe it's a feeling of hope or peace or happiness. And it's different for everybody. Confidence. What is it that you feel? And I think one of the things that you can really determine the success of your visualization is if you're able to connect with that feeling at the end of it, right? Because then you know that it's very vivid, that you've really connected with that feeling. I'm working with a football player. I remember he was building confidence. And, you know, at the end of his peak performance, about coming off the field and being carried by his teammates, that it created such a feeling of confidence for him that sometimes he just needed to listen to the beginning of the script and he already felt confident. He would bring it back together. But that's the goal, that we want you to be able to elicit that feeling that resilience creates. Okay, so you guys ready to put it in action? All right. So what we're going to do is, the only difference that really, and giving you a chance to kind of process this a little bit, but we're going to start with a relaxation, because another important part of a visualization is that it's best done in a relaxed state. So I'm going to take you through a couple of minutes of just focused breathing, and then I will go through those questions. And as we go through them, really begin to put your visualization and your imagery together. Okay? Okay, so this, I'm going to ask you to put both of your feet on the ground and keep your back straight but relaxed. And you can rest your hands loosely in your lap and close your eyes, or if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can just cast your eyes down. We're going to start by taking a couple of nice deep breaths, whatever feels normal and natural. And as you take those deep breaths, just begin to let all the stress and all the tension of the day, just begin to let it fall away. And generate a positive intention for this visualization, so it will be of the greatest benefit to you. And now on your next inhalation, I want you to focus on that cool sensation that you feel at the very tip of your nostrils. And then follow that breath all the way to the end. And then on your next exhalation, I want you to focus on the warm sensation that you feel at the tip of your nostrils, and then follow that breath all the way to the end. So coolness on the inhale and warmth on the exhale. And when your mind wanders, which it will, it's okay. Just notice that you're thinking, and then gently, without any judgment, just bring your focus back to your breath. Again, focusing on that cool sensation on the inhale and the warm sensation on the exhale. And now I want you to begin to think about, again, the qualities that come to mind when you think of an extraordinarily resilient woman. And then call to mind a time when you were resilient. What did you do that helped you to overcome your adversity? And in your mind's eye, see yourself actively doing this. What do you see? What are you doing? What did you do that got you through? Again, was it your mindset, the way you were looking at things? Was it a spiritual practice? Was it your self-care? What got you through? And see yourself in that process. And now calling back to mind the obstacle that you're currently facing. What that might look like for you. Again, putting some details, some of your senses to that picture of that obstacle. What it looks like, what it feels like, what you see, what you hear, what you feel. And now, see yourself actively practicing resilience. Either something that in the past when you've been felt very resilient, or something that you want to do in the future that you haven't tried yet. And see yourself actively in this process of being resilient? Is it the moment-to-moment focus? Is it the mindfulness? Is it the self-compassion? Are you reaching out to a friend? Are you just taking some quiet time to just breathe in a favorite spot? Or are you repeating an affirmation to yourself? Seeing yourself practice your resilience in your own unique way. And now, I want you to see yourself successfully overcoming that adversity. What does that look like? What do you see when you look into your face? Is there a peaceful expression on your face? What do you see? Does your mental strength manifest itself physically in your fitness? Are you seeing yourself as strong and invincible? Are you in that victory stance like a true superhero? What does that look like for you? Notice what you're wearing, the sounds that you hear, any distinct sense in the air. What do you see in this moment that you've realized your resilience? And finally, noticing what it is that you're feeling, knowing that you have successfully overcome this adversity, and naming that feeling. Is it hope, pride, peace, happiness, confidence, relief? What is that feeling for you? And now for just a moment, I'd ask you to sit with this powerful image of your own unique resilience and know that you can access this at any time. And when you're ready, you can relax your concentration and open your eyes. So, what was that experience like? Did anybody have a strong reaction or not a reaction at all? Or anybody want to share it? Maybe we can unmute or talk about what that experience was like. Yes, Kay. Is that you, Kay?
Well, I felt when it was completed, because for a while I've been angry, but then I felt gratitude and relief.
Okay, all right. And what was the process like for you? Were you able to visualize the different pieces of it or you said that you were kind of feeling angry and got distracted maybe by the feelings and only came into it at the end?
No, it was a process of going through. It was like opening doors or opening.
Okay.
Yeah, and so open them and make some progress, but there was still a mountain to climb.
I love that though. I think that that's so unique and everybody has a different experience, especially when we slow down and we get quiet. All kinds of wonderful things, interesting things, will come up. So thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah. Anybody else have it in any type of experience? I know it's very personal, so don't feel compelled, but if anybody wants to share what their experience was, we'd love to hear it. So in the chat, I have shared 2 links. One is a link to the document that we just went through. So you can have an opportunity to look at that and kind of develop your visualization, and maybe, you know, make it a more specific, maybe change the whole thing and come up with something else, but something to support you if you want to develop it, so that you can continue to build on what you've done tonight. And then I also have in there a link to a recording that will take you through the process like we just did. It's a recording of what we just did. Because I think sometimes, especially when we're new to visualization, it's really hard to hold on to those images until we get practice at doing that. And so, so that's there also for you as well, that you can have that recording. And then I also wanted to share with you the references, because I'm a little bit of a research junkie. So if anybody's interested in reading any of these studies, they're just fascinating. And when you read one, it kind of takes you to the next one. So if anybody's interested in the research or would like any other types of resources around visualization, I'm happy and very happy to share that with you. And then I guess I wanted to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions.
You know, Kathy, I just wanted to make a comment because Kathy and I went through this maybe a week ago for the first time. And I felt like I had been through so much and definitely was the person fighting the battle and feeling like I had to power through a lot of things of late. And so I took this and I recorded it on my phone. And yesterday, for the first time, I listened to my recording and it captivated me. I had originally said, Kathy, I can't do this. I don't visualize like deeply enough, and I'm not smelling and feeling, and I just am not getting all of the senses participating. But I went through it again and I recorded it. I highly recommend it. You will be very surprised when you go back at how beneficial it is. And it took me by surprise, and I really enjoyed doing it again yesterday with myself. It really did make a difference. So I highly recommend that. And Kathy, I think if you look on the chat, there might be some questions or
okay.
things that people wanted to discuss.
Let me
And
stop.
Kathy, you may want to stop screen sharing so we can all see each other.
Let me do that. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, this is great. All right.
Karen has a question.
Okay. Do visualizations have a physical image, or can you visualize being emotionally strong, for example? Yes, you can visualize a feeling. It's a matter of just creating how you create that feeling. And absolutely, the visualization can be, you know, we want to use all of our senses. So you can, you know, in fact, that's one way of practicing visualization is this multi-sensory way. So you might be able to elicit some kind of a feeling and then kind of sit with it and visualize yourself having that feeling, although you would be having the feeling, but it would be calling it in, and how that might, I guess it would have to be attached to some kind of an image though, you know, because otherwise you'd just be feeling the feeling. So you might want to attach it to some kind of an image of what what it looks like for you when you're feeling that feeling.
So that really was my question, is you have to have a physical image that you can put your brain at rather than an emotional image, emotional feeling to make it really work.
Yeah.
Kathy, what I noticed is your voice was so relaxing, and it kind of took me through the steps and everything. Doing it myself, I could imagine it being a lot more difficult.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's going to be hard to do it yourself. It was just really easy just to go through the whole emotion, feeling, and going through my thoughts, just because you had real nice, calming step and going through the process. So
you would really benefit then from downloading the recording, because I recorded what we just did for everyone so that you can have that, because I think that's, you know, it's really hard to hold on to all those things at one time, particularly when it's something that's brand new. So that will help to guide it.
So that is right on the right on your chat right now. So you can cut and paste that to yourself, and then you'll have that audio.
You know, one really fun way to practice visualization too, you know, using your senses is to, like, for instance, maybe listen to your phone ring, right? And then close your eyes and visualize your phone ringing. Or putting your hand in a bowl of ice cold water and then drying it off and then visualizing your hand in ice cold water, what that feels like. So for instance, if you were to go through, like you were to go home and you were going to go through this again, you might take your 5 senses and then rate the vividness of each one of them in the visualization. So let's say, for instance, that you really had a hard time hearing anything. So then you would practice visualizing with sound. So that's when you would listen to the phone ring and then would visualize that, or you might clap your hands and close your eyes and visualize that sound, so that you could develop that part of your visualization, whichever part you wanted to strengthen. So that's a great way to practice it.
Hey, Kathy, it's Linda. How are you?
Linda, hi. How are you?
I am great. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
It was a great preson and I was thinking about a couple of things as I was hearing you talk, and one of them was Viktor Frankl and what a fantastic job he was able to do to be able to persevere and to overcome. And so in Man's Search for Meaning, which is one of my favorite books. And then, of course, recently I've discovered Headspace, which has been great. Mm-hmm. So I've really appreciated, and plus he has a very soothing voice. So for some of the folks on the call here who need to help, somebody guide them through that process, they have a male and a female voice, but the male voice is very soothing as he walks you through that process. So yeah. Anyway, Linda, great job.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite books too, Man's Search for Meaning. And I think one of the things that Viktor Frankl teaches us is that when we can find meaning in our suffering, we can be more resilient. And I think that that's a really important part of resilience as well. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Hi, everyone. I have a question. The session was very nice, so thank you very much for this. I was wondering if any of you would use images from their dreams, so dreams you have at night, for this visualization process, because I know I've had dreams even 10 years ago that I remember so vividly, so the images are very, very strong in my mind. And those dreams were actually extremely positive, so kind of, showing me in a very good state or situation, kind of maybe, I don't know, answering a fear that I had at a time. So I know that for me, the visualization process works a lot with that. So I keep seeing those images. And sometimes it can happen that I have a déjà vu experience. But yes, I was just wondering if you do any work with dreams and perhaps what they tell us at times.
You know what? I don't do, I know that there's a lot of information out there about lucid dreaming, when we know that we're dreaming and using those images, and I don't know a lot about that, but I think it would be great if you have a positive, experience with those images and using them in any way that you can. Yeah, for visualization, I would highly recommend that. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Kathy, I have a question that may be off topic. It's around resilience, not so much around the imagery. One of the things that I've really seen since COVID has hit is that a lot of the people that I work with are struggling. And it's, it's partially work related and it's partially everything else. And, I'm their boss, I'm not their counselor or their mother or, I want to help them. And do you have any words of advice around how we can help our coworkers in particular to develop greater resiliency?
Yeah, I think one of the first things to go when we get stressed is our self-care. you know, and I think that really encouraging people to, you know, finding out how they're taking care of themselves. And I think that a lot of times too, that we think of self-care and we think that, you know, it's indulgent or what have you, but I think really encouraging the people around us to take care and also to stay connected. I think real connection is really important for everyone right now.
Thank you. That is good.
One other,
Kathy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things I think with resilience or lack of it, certainly in my life, is sleep or lack of it. That when there, you know, there's always too much to do, and therefore what goes is sleep. And I'm seeing that in my kids now with the virus and working at home and kids at home and having to teach their kids and all of that. And I'm not sure how you fix that. I mean, you can say, yes, sleep, but it's like, I got to get everything done.
Yeah.
So maybe you have some advice on that one.
It's funny that you said that, Lucy, because when I was thinking about, you know, the processes of resilience, one of the things that came to me was seeing myself practicing good sleep hygiene in the visualization. You know, it's like making that decision to, you know, turn off the social media for a couple hours before bed, you know, turning off the news at 10 o'clock and seeing that visual, you know, visualizing good sleep hygiene. I think that, and also seeing that decision that you have to make, you know, like making the choice. Am I going to get my sleep or am I going to try to get these other things done? And, you know, because that sleep is so crucial. Sleep is so underrated, I think. But I think that really visualizing yourself with that choice and making the choice to go to bed could be a useful way of using that visualization. But yeah, but it's funny, that's something that I was thinking about. And, you know, Linda had mentioned Headspace. I've been using Calm, and actually Harry Styles has been telling me bedtime stories. And I don't know if he's from One Direction. He's one of my kids love him. But he's really been telling me bedtime stories, and he takes you through these visualizations where you're visualizing that you're by a brook. And you go through all the seasons with him in one visualization where it's snowing, and then you hear a babbling brook and it's springtime, and where, you know, so it's beautiful. And it really can help with sleep. So I highly recommend that one. And they've got other ones. I just haven't listened to those. I found that one and I just fell in love with it.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have to recommend Insight Timer. It's another one, and you can get a lot of good things free on Insight Timer. You can also pay and get even more, but I love that app.
One thing too that I wanted to mention in closing, and that is, you know, I think that for so long that we've thought that the brain has just a finite ability, and there's so much neuroscience, and I know my friend Becky there could speak on this for forever, but there's so much neuroscience out there about neuroplasticity. And so when we think in terms of learning new skills, learning new information, we're actually changing the structure of our brain, whether it's chemical. We can even create white matter and gray matter. So, you know, that old belief that, you know, that we were so limited is so untrue. And so I guess, you know, thinking in terms of taking on a new skill like visualization not only can help your resilience, but also can continue to expand your brain. So I just wanted to add that in. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for having me. I really loved being here and love sharing my passion around this, because I really think it's a really powerful tool that I don't know that I would have found it so if I hadn't, you know, done my work with athletes, because I do it a lot. We use it a lot in sports.
This is Leanne in Sarasota. I got teary-eyed from the exercise, and I want to thank you so much because it's rejuvenated me in a different way. I actually I had an adversity that I visualized, but through the exercise, I end up visualizing myself, the outcome, the end, being in Taiwan, connecting with my aunt and feeling pride. This is something totally not related to the upset I'm having right now. But I want to share with you, I've been getting a lot of kudos and compliments about you throughout the last several minutes, because I have several guests on here and they've been sharing with me by chat and by text. So Kathy, people here are just loving your presentation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leanne. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much for joining us.
Yes, let me add my thanks and say Mary Ruiz, our president, usually comes to everything we do and isn't here tonight because it's her son's birthday. So we all thank you, and thank you all for joining us too. Let me add my thanks to Adria's, and Adria, thank you for getting Kathy and putting together such a wonderful program. And we will look forward to seeing you at our next program, which is the one on education on August something. I had it written on one of my pieces of paper, but I started writing my resilience stuff and I lost it. But anyway, we will look forward to seeing you on that one. So thank you all. And thank you, Kathy.
everybody.
This was
Thank
great.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great being with you all.
Good to see everybody.
Yes.